It's that time of year where we talk about rigs, techniques, maybe for crappie, red snapper, or even bass. Dave, Bree, and myself are ready to go with the latest information on fresh and saltwater fishing in the great state of Texas. This is the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. I'm Bree Gabrielle alongside Captain Rick Murphy, and we are so excited to be back on your screens and bringing you the latest bite reports from around this great state of Texas, right, Rick?
Absolutely, Bree. And you know what else we're bringing?
What are we?
We're bringing a new baby girl into the world.
Yes,
Why don't you tell everybody about Mia?
Mia. Her name is Mia, and she's due June 12th.
Right.
And we're all very excited, and I hope you're going to teach her how to fish.
Oh, absolutely. I want to be the first one to take her, please.
You definitely will be. But
with Daddy and Mommy and Grandma.
Of course. You can't forget Mom.
We gotta get a big boat.
Bigger boat, bigger
boat.
Family, bigger boat. Gotta
do
that. Well, someone who I know we've both missed around here is Dave Farrell at the CCA Workbench. Dave.
Yes.
What's going on, man?
Well, not a whole lot. I'm glad to be back for Texas. We're going to be talking about wire tonight, getting offshore and catching some big toothy critters on wire. Why are we here? To talk about wire.
Wire, that's a good one. All right, if you're in the Middle Coast region and looking for some offshore or inshore fun this weekend, Bink Grimes is starting us out and has got you covered. Welcome back, Bink.
Man, glad to be back. I tell you what, our trout numbers along the Middle Coast are as strong as I've ever seen them. Spring's been solid. Most of our trout are being found over shell reefs and in muddy guts right now. The wind's blowing, but we're doing all right. In Matagorda, West Bay's been on fire along the North Shoreline reefs. That incoming tide has been a ticket for limits of trout on live shrimp under a mid-coast rattling cork. And there seems to be a trout on every reef right now because we're getting these big spring tides and it's flooding, just covering the reefs, and just a lot of fish over shell right now. Like I said, those spring winds are always a problem, but when the winds are light, the deep shell reefs in East Matagorda Bay has been coughing up really good catches of trout to 7 pounds on bass assassins, down south lures, and Chicken Boy whipping chickens. Waders fishing the shorelines have found big trout, but the numbers have really been caught in the middle of the bay. Port O'Connor guide Lynn Smith said the topwater bite's been good in the back lake with the incoming tide. Once again, we're getting these spring tides that are swollen. It's pushing a lot of those fish in the back lake. Many of them are staging over mud and grass. And we're throwing super spooks, she dogs, and skitterwalk, for the topwater baits. This morning, the water temperature was 74 degrees, so it's almost time to wade wet. We're also throwing those mirror lure soft irons, corkies, and that new lily bait. Sea drift anglers are throwing lots of live shrimp on the edges of reefs, and they're scoring easy limits. There's a lot of reefs in the middle of San Antonio Bay, and they're just jumping back and forth on them. Any piece of shell really is holding good trout on an incoming tide in San Antonio Bay. Then around Freeport, the reefs are holding trout on live bait. Again, the tides are swelling up and down the Middle Coast, and all those fish are hanging right on the edge of those reefs. And then in Rockport, guide Rhett Price said the reefs are good for trout on bass assassins and home wrecker lures. And it's been challenging at times, but that water stays clean over there. A lot of grass in Rockport, so water staying clean. And some of our heaviest trout of the year are getting ready to be caught this month in April. So stay tuned. Hopefully, we'll have a lot of big fish pictures like this one here by Craig Harden of Houston. He got a beautiful trout that ate a magic grass bass assassin. And while we were drifting East Matagorda Bay, fish weighed about 7 pounds.
That's
nice.
Pretty good.
Great picture, Bink. I love it.
We're going to go to redfish, and man, the redfish have been found around the falling tides in the guts and the deep holes. That's normally the plan this time of year. We've got a little north wind coming this week, and it's going to drop the tides, but then they'll bull right back up. And a lot of those redfish are hanging right around Matt Island Cut, Culver Cut, and Boggy Cut in Matagorda. And then the wind will switch back to the southerly flow, and it'll push water back in the bays and the back lakes, and that's when those redfish go way back in there, and they run along that grass line and try to catch those shrimp. And we're throwing right up against there in Port O'Connor and Pringle, Panther, shoal water in Fifth Lake. And some of the waders are tossing those small top waters back there and they're also throwing down south lures, gulps, and bass assassins. And then the live baiters, they've been sitting on the mud flats waiting for the reds to come to them. Some are taking big old chunks of mullet and they're cutting them in large chunks and soaking them on the bottom. They're just setting the rod in the rack, just kind of kicking back and enjoying the soda and just waiting for the big thump. And then others are working shell-laden shorelines in about 2 foot of water and catching reds tight to the grass. They're chasing those little shrimp, a little shad there. Spots like Cutoff Flat, Zipper and Bow, and Forked Bow in Matagorda has been popular. This time of year, we'll go to black drum. With our swelling tides, there's black drums all over the same reefs that the trout and the reds are on. Large spawning drum are moving to the Gulf of Mexico as well, and any channel leading to the ocean is a player for these big old drum on cracked blue crab. Spots like the Yeti and Freeport, Surfside, Matagorda, Port O'Connor, and Port Aransas have all been players. The shrimp boat channel near Port Aransas and the Ingleside channel been coughing up big drum to 40 pounds. Heck, I caught a big bruiser last week. There's something kind of like dragging in a big old boot. It's just it's a big pull, it really is. And there's just just a lot of different species you can catch right now with the swollen tides we have. And then we've got a little offshore action going with a red snapper. Guide Mike Segal of Freeport said he's been finding lots of small snappers in state waters, and most of those fish have been 5 to 10 pounds in about 40 foot of water. And then guide Michael Quebeca in Matagorda says he's catching Texas snapper in the 15-pound range. He's been on those days. We get a few light wind days this time of year, and what he's doing, he's going out in the afternoon, just waiting for it to calm down, taking his bay boat and making a quick trip in about 60 foot of water and working wrecks with squid and catching pretty good snapper. And the federal officials are telling us they're trying to give us more days for red snapper, more for recreational fishermen. Hopefully we'll get a decision by the end of May. Normally the red snapper season starts on June the 1st, so stay tuned. And, the federal managers trying to make that decision. We hope the recreational anglers get taken care of this year.
All right, well, thank you so much, Bink. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the Middle Coast hotspots from your region. Inshore trout on live shrimp over the reefs on the incoming tide in West Matagorda Bay and San Antonio Bay, and then redfish in the Black Lakes of Port O'Connor on small top waters and gulps. Black drum are good in the channels leading to the Gulf on cracked blue crab.
There's a lot going on in the Middle Coast region.
Man, Binky's got it going.
It's a good year.
Yeah.
New season, new year, so exciting. On the phone, we have Matt Reed in the Yeti Lower Fresh region with some good news on Lake Falcon, Amistad, and Travis. So listen up. Good to have you back, Matt.
Hey, Bree, good to be back. Rick, you going to keep everybody in line, or are you out of line just like all of them?
But
he's the worst.
I'm probably the worst one of them all, Thank goodness when they call HR, I answer the phone, you know what I mean? So we're okay.
Yep.
That works.
All right.
Let's go ahead and get started talking about fishing in my little bitty area of Texas. That lower freshwater region is just massive. We've got so many different patterns going on right now on our lakes. Let's talk about the bass on Lake Falcon. Right now, the fish are already in the full-blown summer pattern down here. My water temperature is upper 70s, pushing 80. Fishing is phenomenal right now. In 15 to 25 foot of water, those fish are stacked up on the rock ledges and humps. I'm catching most of them on a Carolina rig, Zoom, Magnum, trick worm, or also you can put a super fluke on that. And we're averaging 50 to 80 fish a day right now.
Wow.
Numbers are phenomenal. There's a lot of small fish mixed in, but, you're catching a lot of big ones, too. So it's a ton of fun. You can also catch some of those fish on a Z-Boss 20 crankbait in the moon glow color, which is a, kind of a chartreuse blueback type color. They love that down here. What's really neat right now, I can take my Lowrance HDS 12, and I look everywhere now before I fish. If I don't see them, they're not there. And there's huge schools of them piled up on a lot of it. So it's so neat to be able to see them, turn around and cast and catch them. Let's move on up to Lake Amistad. Bass are biting well there. They're in the shallow water still around the grass at Amistad. The bass are in all stages of the spawn up there. 800 feet of elevation different than it is at Falcon, next lake up the river, but totally different patterns. You can take a Cinco and fish real slow on the inside edge of the grass in that shallow water, and you're going to catch some of the pre-spawn and spawners. You can also catch them throwing a speed shad swim bait on a weedless hook. You know, a lot of those fish, that works well on all three phases of the spawners, the pre, the post-spawn, and the ones that are actually bedding. Sight fishing is still a player at Amistad. The bedding fish are back in the pockets, and, you know, it's real clear. You just need to get you some good glasses and get back in there, get your coasters, and you can see them on the bed in the clear water, and you can aggravate that fish into biting. But be sure and let those fish go so they can, you know, finish the spawn so we can have fish for the future. Moving up to around the Austin area. Lake Travis is kind of a similar scenario. The bass are shallow. They're in all phases of the spawn. Some are spawning, some are post-spawn. For those spawning fish, you want to fish around any shallow cover you can find with soft plastic. Watermelon shades have been the best. Cincos, little trick worms, stuff like that is getting the most bites. One of the most favorite things for those post-spawn fish now, they love to bite a topwater early, and you know, that's a great way to catch them. It's a fun way to catch them. You can take a walking bait like a spook or a Sammy or a popper as like a yellow magic or something. You can catch those fish, you know, around the steep banks and anything with cover until the sun gets too bright. As the sun gets up high, there's getting to be a boat dock pattern where you can catch them skipping a jig around the boat docks, especially when it gets high sun. Those fish are going to get under there. They like the shade. That can be a really effective way to catch them up in the day.
Tell us about the photo, Bub.
Oh, that's a customer of mine. Ken caught that big old fish down at Falcon the other day. Weighed somewhere between 9 and 10. I forget the exact numbers, but she's a full-grown one.
Yeah, it is, for sure. All right, you got some white bass action for us?
All right, I got some white bass here on Falcon also. You know, they've made their way back down the river from their spawn. They're setting up in the mid-lake area on all the points and ledges, and I mean, there's a ton of them showing up right now. You can catch those fish on numerous types of baits. They're not really all that picky. Any shad pattern type bait, a rattle bait, a crankbait, or a slab spoon will get it done. Just idle around, look at your electronics till you find them. I mean, they're in big schools. How you know they're whites is they'll stack up. You know, they'll look kind of like a teepee. They don't line up on the bottom. There'll be a big tall school of them on your screen, and just turn around and you can catch an easy limit of them right now on any type of shad bait.
All right, well, thank you so much, Matt. That's a great report from the Yeti Lower Fresh region. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the hot spots. Matt says bass, Lake Falcon bass are loaded up on the rock ledges in 17 to 25 feet of water, biting Carolina rigs and soft plastics.
All right, Rick, we have to talk about CCA, Coastal Conservation Association Texas, and Building Conservation Trust. CCA's National Habitat Program investing $895,000 towards Texas coastal marine habitat in 2018. This equals $3.6 million in habitat and projects funded, which include marsh restoration, nearshore reef creation, shoreline protection, oyster reef expansion, and demonstration and reef habitat studies. Wow.
That's a lot.
They're doing a lot for the state of Texas. We always love our CCA. All right, we're just getting started here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report, and next up, we're headed to the Lower Coast region and then seeing what tips and tricks Dave has for us at Rigs and Techniques. Dave, you're up.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about wire, like I said before, kind of tools you use to use it, and the fish that we catch with it.
All right. We're going to get wired.
Yes, we are.
Oh, get ready. We'll be back.
Wired up.
By Yamaha. Reliability starts here. The American Fishing Tackle Company. Any fish, any water. Since 1958. Guy Harvey, marine wildlife artist and conservationist. And CCA Texas, a leader in marine conservation.
Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 offshore 4-strokes. For those that like their V6 lighter, faster, and stronger. Setting new standards for power, efficiency, speed, and lightweight. Built for the rigors of offshore boating. Packed with Yamaha's legendary reliability. And now Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 four-strokes offer a choice between digital or mechanical controls to match your rigging preference. Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
CCA is the largest marine conservation group of its kind, with 70,000 members in Texas. CCA's mission is dedicated to conserve, promote, and enhance the present and future availability of our coastal resources for the benefit and enjoyment of the general public. So if you care about the health of our Texas coastal resources, join CCA today by going to their website, ccatexas.org, and help them make a difference. Use the promo code REDFISH to receive your free hat with your membership. CCA, the leader in marine conservation.
The CCA Workbench is where the rigs and techniques happen.
No tricks up my sleeve.
No tricks. But you know what? Let's talk a little bit about wire.
Well, you know, if you're going to be going offshore and tackling some of these toothy critters like wahoos and kingfish that we have out there this time of year, you're going to have to use some stainless steel wire. And this is, you know, single strand wire, and it's great because the fish can't bite through it, and it's easy to make connections out of. It breaks where you want it to break all the time. Unlike a lot of monofilaments where you don't know where they're going to break. It may say on the label it's 20 pounds. It may break at 25 or 30 or whatever. The world's strongest 20-pound. Wire is not that way. It breaks where it says it. It's easy to make that tension strength to where it breaks where it's supposed to, which is a lot of times why we used it for big marlin, because we knew when we had 130-pound 040 wire, it would break at 130 pounds or whatever the pound test was. It would break on that when we wanted it to break, a lot more than that actually.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the rigs that are typically used.
Well,
with wire.
The first rig that everybody, you know, offshore learns is something called a pin rig, and this is it. You know, this is probably a number 7 wire, which breaks about 40 pounds, which is perfect for kingfish and most of the fish, you know, dolphin, whatever. You know, you're going to run across. This 40-pound leader will probably stand up to it. If you're catching some great big wahoos or something, you might want to go up to number 10 wire, which breaks at 100 pounds or 131 pounds. So, you know, it'll be a little harder for a really big fish to scissor through it. Believe it or not, a big wahoo can scissor through some heavy wire sometimes if it gets right in a bad spot, because we even had marlin do it with great big wire. But when you're making one of these little pin rigs for wahoos or kingfish, what you want to do is you start by making this haywire right here, and it's called a haywire twist and a bimini wrap, or a roll, but we call it a wrap. And what you do is you make a decent loop through your hook, and you have to twist the 2 strands of wire together. And that's very important, that one wire doesn't wrap around the other one, that they both twist together at the same time around each other. And you can go online and see some of them. You'll see some examples of when you have one that's wrapped around the other versus when they're both together. And you got to be careful too, because when you twist them together,
they even show you.
They show you how to do it on the back
of the Malin hard wire. They show you here's how to do the haywire twist, and then here's the Albright knot if you're tying it to monofilament.
Right, which is, I wouldn't want to do that on TV, but I can tie a haywire twist on TV.
No
I wouldn't want to do it all bright. But there's two ways to connect your ballyhoo on here, and one is to use a pin and one of these, and the other is to use a copper wire. And you know, a copper wire like this will get you your ballyhoo on there, and you can just wrap it right down.
And then this deal here, once you
The
get
pin,
it started,
correct. You can wrap it all the way down. Let me get my ballyhoos out.
Dave forgot that he had ballyhoos.
No, I didn't forget them.
You didn't? Looks like you did to me.
I didn't want him to get all.
You need me to cut that for you?
Yeah, I didn't want him to get all messed up.
All right, so here we are. Way to go, Dave.
No, we're cool.
All right, so do you break off the bill?
Yeah, I like to do it at the end usually, but you can do it at the beginning. What's good about the pin is you don't have to go through their eyeballs, so you can leave their eyeballs in.
Okay.
And what you'll do is you'll use your thumb to pull open their gill.
Right.
And we'll feed this. This is a 7-hook, 7/0. It's probably a little smaller for this ballyhoo, but we'll feed it under his collar.
Go slow, so that camera right there has got to see it, Dave.
Feed it under his collar.
Right.
And we'll push it down, and we'll see the hook of the point start to come out of his belly.
Right.
And we want it to be close to the middle.
Right.
And once we get it to where we know it's in the middle.
The middle of the belly,
right.
Not the middle of the bait. The
right.
middle of the
middle of his belly.
Flat part.
In the middle. And we're going to push it through.
All right, turn it and show it. Look. See that, guys?
See how we got it in the middle?
Slide it up in there.
And we'll pull
That's
it.
the camera
and
for
the key to do it is to pull it with the hook side.
Right.
Don't try to stuff it in. Pull it with the hook and get it down in there to where your pin lines up with the mouth.
Okay, stick that through.
And then we'll stick the pin straight through his mouth, and we'll close his mouth. See his little mouth he's got?
Yeah.
We'll close his mouth with that pin once we get him up in there.
Good.
And then close his mouth, and then we wrap
cone.
The cone goes, slips.
Show that there.
Slides right down, and you just wind,
just keep winding that till it gets tight, yeah?
Till it gets tight.
That's slick.
And if we want to, once we get them all, straight, yeah, that's pretty good. He's not too bad. So sometimes you'll want to hook your hook up as far in there as you can get, but that's not too bad. Because one time, a lot of times we'll want to put a stinger on here, and that's the other good thing for the wire. What we'll do is we'll just go ahead and wire this stinger on here and stick it right in his tail.
Right.
And wire that, make another little loop on his hook, on the hook.
So one last little trick we have to say real quick, because we're out of time. But guys, Dave taught me that when you pull on this wire hard, after you've rigged it, as long as the hook stays straight, you're not going to have a twisting ballyhoo.
Right. If you pull on this and the hook doesn't move around, it's going to pull from the front. And every bait that pulls from the front is not going to spin. If it starts pulling from back here, then the bait will want to turn over and roll.
That's no bueno.
Right. And if that happens, you can just get your bait knife out and maybe give it a little slit sometimes, and then give it a room, but it'll sometimes work.
Good job.
But, well, yeah, so, yeah.
All right.
See,
I appreciate it.
You did have some tricks up your sleeve over there. I knew it.
He's the best.
Bringing you your inshore and offshore report for the Lower Coast region is our resident captain, Chad Kinney. What's going on, Chad?
Everything's going great. Got some good stuff for both inshore and offshore. So inshore fishing's good on the trout and redfish out of Corpus Christi, and offshore has been good on state water snapper fishing out of Port Mansfield here. So starting out with the inshore up around Corpus, talked to Captain Doug Stanford, and he gave me a good report. He reported the trout fishing's been really good in Redfish Bay, and also looked for redfish in Coconut Bay and black drum around Packery Channel. So on the trout fishing, he said it's real good, like I said, around Redfish Bay, around the oyster reefs and rocks, using live shrimp and a popping cork. So when you get up there and do that, I like using like a 25-pound fluorocarbon leader, but if you're going to be around those oyster beds or rocks and stuff, you might want to bump that up to 50 or 60. But adjust your depth of your leader to whatever depth you're fishing in. If you're fishing in 5 foot of water, try to be in a 36-inch range or so to keep your bait in the target zone there. So also try Arandis Bay along the old railroad tracks for some good numbers right there. And if you're using some soft plastics, I like using an 1/8-ounce jig head and a sand eel this time of year. Kind of bounce it off the bottom a little bit like that with chartreuse tail. Kind of throw it towards the shallower areas and work off the drop-offs. Or if you got a good bite going like that, you might want to power pole down. Hopefully you got 2 power poles on your boat this time of year with the wind howling so your boat don't spin on you or kind of bump around when it's blowing 30 or 40. So we got a good trout pick there from Captain Doug Stanford. Got a couple guys. One got a 25-inch trout, and the other was right about 20. So they're catching some fish up at my northern end of my location. So moving on to the redfish, they're producing well there in Coconut Bay. and around the Colossal Creek. There's been slot reds and some oversized ones in there. And he said the best thing they're using right now is cut mullets, which always works great in redfish wherever you're at. Rig down a Carolina rig. So if you're trying to get a Carolina rig, use about 24 inches a leader. I like using 25-pound fluorocarbon also on that one. And I like using about a 5 to 7 knot tail hook and then pin your cut mullet on. And lots of people, I've seen they put their mullet on. They try to get that hook and put as much mullet as they can or tie it in a pretzel. The best way to hook that mullet, it's real simple, but just barely get in the meat and pop that barb out and hook right through there. So you're going to have more barb exposed and you're going to get a lot better hook set if you try it that way instead. And use about a 3/4 1 ounce lead for your Carolina rig there, and it'll work real well.
All right,
also, he said,
let's go offshore, Chad.
All right, heading offshore in the snapper. Snapper fishing's been great out of Fort Mansfield. We're 4 per person. It's open 365 days a year. Try to use a Williamson flutter jig, about 3 ounce when the weather's better, and those fish will be suspended. So go ahead and drop that jig down. If you stop on the way down, click it over and start jigging, and they'll probably be there right away if you're in a good bite. If the current's stronger, then go ahead and switch to a double rig with a bank weight about 8 to 16 ounces, depending on current. I like using about 150-pound leader. VMC circle hook works great, about an 8/0, and then go ahead and tip that stuff off with fresh squid or cigar minnows or whatever you got. And got a monster snapper picture there. We had a client catch a 34.5-inch snapper there the other day.
Golly, look at that snapper.
That's pretty.
I'd die if I caught one that big.
Moving into the kingfish there, they've been showing up early this year. Try the Rapala divers there, shiny in color like those. They got some that are coming out now with 40-foot diving, so they'll get you down there deep and try a couple different. Try a 20 and try a 40, see which is working better. And then I throw 2 flat lines out there, control about 5 to 7 knots. And then just run 2, that way if you get a double knockdown, you're not going to get cut off by a bunch. And then make sure, as Dave was saying, make sure you use a wire leader on these. And then every time you get a bite or land a fish, check that wire leader, make sure it's not kinked. If it's kinked up, go ahead and cut it off, put another bait on, and do that. Because if not, you're going to end up losing a lot of fish that way. And the blue water is going to be coming in as soon as the weather subsides. Look like that, I'll get you some good reports on that stuff. There's been bait balls out there, lots of good signs for that stuff. So keep in touch, and I'll keep you in tune with what's going to happen on the pelagics.
So, Chad, I got a question for you. How big was that big snapper? I mean, what'd that fish weigh? You got any guess?
It's 34.5 inches and like 28 pounds.
Dang.
Wow.
What's the biggest one you ever guided to, Chad, that you know of?
Actually, no, I got a picture of my daughter years ago, and the snapper was 44 inches, and I didn't even weigh it. So
Dang.
I don't know what it was, but I got a good picture of my daughter when she was young.
Well,
We got to get that on the show.
yeah, man. You got to dig that one up,
I
man.
want to see that.
You done a throwback Thursday?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's
There you
good to have you back. We're so excited about this season and way to get us started this week from the Lower Coast region. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots. He says inshore trout and redfish have been good out of Corpus Christi, and then offshore snapper fishing has been good in state waters out of Port Mansfield.
Are you flabbergasted?
It's that's a monster
That was
fish.
monster. That was crazy. I've
Whoa.
never seen that reaction from you.
Man,
Because you
it's
love
like-
your snapper.
I like the snapper.
He does. We're just getting into the swing of things
Ooh.
around here, so stay tuned for the Middle Fresh and Upper Coast regions. We're headed your way next. And don't forget to visit our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, watch us on YouTube, and view and tag us on Instagram. Getting bossy around here, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. That's not the only thing.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Contender Boats, always in the game. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. CCA Star, fishing fun for giant prizes and scholarships. Costa Sunglasses, see what's out there. And King Sailfish Mounts, www.kingsailfish.com.
Master your most challenging offshore experience with confidence and ease with Yamaha Helmmaster. Precise, intuitive control on the open seas. Unrivaled ease for maneuvering and docking in port. And now SetPoint adds 3 new dimensions to boat control. Maintain boat position with fish point, or a position and heading with stay point, or a heading while you drift with drift point. Yamaha Helmmaster, now with SetPoint. Complete digital control for today's larger offshore boats.
As close as you're gonna get to a sure thing for catching billfish is Guatemala.
They're here, man. This has been a 20-year run, buddy. These things haven't left, there's no cycle.
When it comes to sail fishing, this is the real deal.
The amount of sailfish here is ridiculous.
Remember to follow our guides and be up to date on all things fishing in Texas. Make sure to head over to TexasInsiderFishingReport.com. You can catch all of our shows on our YouTube channel too. Remember to like us on Facebook at Texas Insider Fishing Report and follow us on Instagram at TifferTV. Also, don't forget to send and tag us in your fish-tastic photos and videos.
Fish-tastic, you say?
Fish-tastic, I say, exactly. Welcoming a newcomer to the Texas Insider Fishing Report crew from the Startron Middle Fresh region, Matt Loescher. Let's get you started, Matt.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, how you doing, Matt?
Doing great, man. Just got off the water, enjoying a nice afternoon.
All right, let's roll, bub.
All right, well, first off, I'm going to start off over at Sam Rayburn this week. Man, it's been really hot over there. There's a lot of hydrilla grass in the lake right now over there. And the bass, you know, they're coming up with this full moon. They're coming up to spawn. And basically all of that spawning activity is taking place between that hydrilla grass and the bank. You know, so that 1 to 5 feet deep section is where you want to concentrate and look for those bass between that inside edge of that hydrilla grass and the bank line. You know, and they'll use whatever cover they've got back there. I've been catching them on cypress trees a lot. That's been really hot for me. You know, they like those root systems around those cypress trees and any bushes or, you know, grass, scattered stuff around, that just any cover that those bass might use to build a nest around. That's where I'm catching them right now. And it's been really pretty hot. You know, I like to use a couple of different baits, but I try to keep it simple. You know, I like a Texas rig soft plastic bait, something compact, you know, like a Zoom speed crawl or like a Cajun Lures Bayou Bug, you know, little compact soft plastics like that you can kind of pitch around these trees and bushes and scattered grass and stuff. You know, something you can get in there real tight into the cover. You know, use whatever weight you need based on the wind conditions for the day, and just pitch it around those trees and roots and grass and catch some big bass. You know, I like a watermelon red is always a good color. And, you know, if the water's a little dirtier, maybe a June bug. But just keep it simple and focus on that section. You know, and a swim jig is another good bait. If, you know, if you want to cover a little more water, you have a hard time slowing down, you can take the swim jig and just toss that sucker up to the bank and just reel it in. Just keep it simple. Just throw it out there and reel it back. Some days they like it fast. Some days they like it slow. Just kind of play with it and see what the mood of the fish is. But those have been really good producers. You can see I got some pictures up there. I sent you guys one of my customers with a pretty nice bass. You can see the cypress trees in the background there. Yeah. You know, he was just pitching those soft plastics up around those cypress trees, you know, and just pulling out those bass left and right that day. And you can see the swim jig there that I like to use. The same deal. Just throw it up there around those trees and just reel it in. Good stuff.
That looks good. So, you know, Matt was talking about in the lower fresh region, Matt Reed was talking about catching 70 to 90 fish a day. Is your numbers that high too, bub?
Maybe not quite that high, but, you know, we're having some good days. You know, a good day right now is 30 to 40 bass. You know, an average day I'd say is about 20 bass, but the quality's really good. You know, these fish are fat and healthy right now. A lot of them are still pre-spawn, so they're really fat, full of eggs, you know, and they're healthy. You know, and they're fighting hard, and it's just a ton of fun.
Quality over quantity.
All right, so tell us about the white bass fishing.
All right, well, I'm going to move over to Toledo Bend for that.
Okay.
The white bass have really been running up the river pretty hot lately, up the Sabine River end of the lake. You know, they like to run up that current this time of year, getting ready to spawn as well. And you can target them in, you know, pretty obvious kind of spots. You know, you want to look for anywhere there's a break in the current. You know, little sandbars, little points, you know, where that current's kind of rolling around and makes a little eddy. And usually they're not really picky about a bait. You know, it's mainly just about getting around them. But what works really good most of the time is a little shallow running crankbait. I like a 200 series Bandit crankbait. in like a crawfish color, you know, something bright orange or red that they can see. The water's pretty dirty, so something bright colored in that dirty water works really good. And those things love to eat crawfish, so that crawfish color usually works really well. Or if you want to do something different, a little Roadrunner jig head works really well. It's just a little jig head with a spinner on it. I like an orange one, usually in an 1/8 ounce, with like a white grub on there. Just throw it up stream, you know, throw it into the current, and kind of let it fall into those little eddies, and just wind it back with the current, and they'll jump all over it. They're a ton of fun. They pull real hard.
All right, you got some crappie for us?
Yeah, man. Yeah, the crappie this week started to get really hot as well. You know, that full moon brought a lot of them, you know, getting closer, getting ready to spawn as well. And you can target them on Toledo Bend around bridges. You know, as these crappie are moving back to spawn up in these creeks along Toledo Bend, there's a lot of bridges that they have to pass through. You know, as they're going up these creeks, going to that shallow water, and coming from the shallow water back out to deep water, they have to go through these narrow choke points. So you want to target those bridges that create a choke point for those fish to move through. And it's real simple to catch them. You know, you just want to position your boat underneath those bridges or out beside them. And I like the tight line of minnow. Is a really simple way to catch them. You know, just use a big split shot, something that gets down there and stays there. And, you know, put a minnow on there, fish them about 8 to 15 feet deep around those pilings. That's usually the depth range those crappie like to move in and out in. And, you know, if you're not a live bait guy, a lot of guys don't like to use a live bait for crappie. People like to use jigs. Just a little jig head works well with a little grub type crappie jig on there, a little plastic bait, something like a Cajun Lure Slim Jimmy or a little Bobby Garland, little shad looking bait. And, you know, you can just drop those things down there about 8 to 15 feet as well. Kind of throw them out, let them just kind of drift around those pilings in that same range, and that catches some really big slabs.
Matt, you did a great job for the first week. I cannot wait to work for you for the next 25. We appreciate you very, very much, and I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the Middle Fresh hotspots. Good job. He says Sam Rayburn bass in protected pockets. Look along the edges of the hydrilla and the banks from 1 to 5 feet of water. Try Texas Rig compact soft plastic baits or maybe a swim jig. In some of the areas where the water is clear enough to sight fish for bedding bass is a good option as well, Bree.
Well, we're just getting to know Mr. Loescher, but I can already tell he's a fan of the KISS method. Keep it simple, silly. I'm gonna go with silly. He likes to keep it simple. Captain Caleb Harp in charge of
Appreciate you not calling me stupid.
Well, you know, don't want to offend you or anything. Captain Caleb Harp in charge of the Upper Coast region. I could have said that too. Has tons of versatility for y'all this weekend. Caleb, how's the fishing been treating you?
Pretty good, pretty good. We could use a little calming in the wind a little bit. It's kind of blowing down here, but
we heard.
It's been going good. We'll kick it off. Start talking about these trout. The South Shoreline of East Galveston Bay has been really good for trout lately. But it's all about timing. And these trout are in their true spring transition stage right now. It can make things kind of frustrating, a little difficult since they're not eating often all day. It's kind of a timing thing. But the key to catching them right now is just to be really patient and just wait on them to light up. We are on their time. Right now, our fish have been eating best on the minor feed time and whenever the tide is at the highest that it can be. And that high tide is going to pin those fish and the bait up against the bank, making them easier to target. And like always during the spring transition, these fish are eating really small forage, little shad, little small glass minnows. And I've had my best success throwing small baits to try to mimic those, small forage they're eating, like a mirror lure or Little John on a really small 16th-ounce jig head, spinning it really good. And, but hard baits like a Miradyne or a Catch 2000 Junior, they've been really good too. And I think I've got a picture there of my buddy Alex from a recent wading trip we did over there.
You're just showing off in that picture.
Nice.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Caleb.
Not been bad.
That's what I love to see. Great picture, dude.
Trout bouquet.
Somebody having big fun, man. I love it. All right, what else you got for us? Let's talk inshore still.
Yeah, that's it, man. We'll go into redfish. The redfish are always going to be pretty thick on the jetties during this time of year. Generally we're going to talk about the Sabine jetties first. They can, they're normally going to light up, but the water over there is a little off from the fresh water. But the Galveston jetties, they're doing really good too. Those schools of fish in the marsh that we're normally chasing early in the year, they've been kind of spread out, and it's a little too early for the open water bait, schools to get right. But, the jetties are always going to hold fish all year. You just have to find out where they want to be up and down the rocks. And a great way to find these fish is to fish parallel to the jetties with deep diving like Rapala DT16 or DT20 crankbaits, and try reeling the lures so that they hit the rocks. When they deflect off the rocks, it's going to interrupt the vibration, and that's when you're going to get your bite. And once you find those fish, you can also try vertical jigging spoons or a 4-inch gulp shrimp Texas rig on a 6/0 hook with a 1/2 to 3/4 ounce slip sinker. But always remember, when fishing the jetties, on an incoming tide you want to be on the outside of the rocks, and an outgoing tide you want to be on the inside. An opposite rule. It's just better current flow. And then going offshore, whenever the weather allows, we've got a lot of wind right now, but whenever you can get out there and get a good weather window, the flower gardens, which are about 90 miles out of Galveston, have been holding numerous big wahoo. And these wahoos can be caught on marauders in purple and black, stretch 30s in pink, and islander skirted ballyhoo on top. And these baits have been catching fish up to about 80-pound range. Just make sure you rig up with AFW 49-strand cable leader to keep from getting cut off. And then I got a picture there from Carl with Salty Dolphin Charters out of Freeport. They've been on some big wahoo. That fish right there was 82.5 pounds, and it actually won the Winter Wahoo Championship. It was a pretty good fish there. That's it.
That Carl's a great fisherman. Thank you for getting some reports from him, Caleb. We appreciate it very much. Now we're gonna. What other species you got for me?
Yeah, we got some snapper on there. Catch and release fishing for red snappers, both state and federal waters, is legal right now. The red snapper, they can be found everywhere, pretty much, all types of structure, whether it's a natural reef or artificial reef. These snapper, they're going to be ready to bite any kind of dead bait presented on a knocker or chicken rig. Just make sure you're using a Mudstad 7/0 Demon Perfect circle hook, and make sure to have a good venting tool so that those fish can be released without any harm.
All right, Bub, thank you. Thank you so much. Good job. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the CCA Upper Coast hotspots inshore trout. On the south side, south shoreline of East Galveston Bay, wade fishing has been the only way to go to help with the slow bite during the spring transition. Soft plastics and 16th-ounce jig head or shad-like hard baits have been the best ticket. And then offshore, wahoos at the flower gardens whenever the weather permits, pulling purple and black marauder stretch 30s pink or an islander skirted ballyhoo at 5 miles an hour.
That trout bouquet photo was the best photo I've seen in a long time. Just saying, that was awesome. So good. The upper fresh region is where we've set our sights on next, but first we have to what Dave has for us at New Products.
I agree with the trout bouquet. Shopping. That was pretty bad.
So right.
These are like alien pliers. Look at these things. That's the alien technology.
So we're wires and pliers today, Dave?
Beautiful stuff.
Can't
New
wait.
products.
We'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Rapala. Catch the latest at Rapala.com. Yeti, built for the wild. Building Conservation Trust, CCA's National Habitat Program. Startron, cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
When you've got an incredible opportunity in front of you, you want a Yamaha VMAX SHO behind you. Just ask 2017 Toyota Bassmaster Angler of the Year, Brandon Polinick. He'll tell you, if you're an aspiring angler with big dreams and a VMAX SHO, there's no limit to what you could achieve. Light, fast, fuel-efficient V6 performance and Yamaha reliability that lets you focus on your game. Nothing pushes you like a Yamaha VMAX SHO.
That's all we need. We need next quarter so we can just bonus everything.
Yeah? Stop working right now! Look outside. Is this spreadsheet weather? No, it's not. This is fishing weather. So stop clicking, get out there, and catch a bass. Stop what you're doing and start fishing Rapala Ripstop.
Thanks for tuning in to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram to keep up with our captains, contests, and appearances. You never have to miss a show. You can find full episodes as well as special segments right on our homepage. Just head to TexasInsiderFishingReport.com for everything you need to know to stay hooked up.
Hi, I'm Robert Shamlin with JL Marine Systems with your Power Pole tip. First, I'd like to talk about all of the upgrades that Power Pole has done to their shallow water anchors for 2017. They've reduced the overall number of models from 5 to 4. And starting with the blade, they've got an all-new redesigned stern bracket. The Pro 2 now comes with the signature holes to reduce the weight. It's available in 3 sizes, a 4-foot, 6-foot, and 8-foot. The Sportsman 2 now has a powder-coated finish in matte black, and the stern bracket has also been improved. Another thing they've done to all of the models is gone from the tubing to a heavy-duty hydraulic hose. Everything is powered by the new Sea Monster 2.0 control system that also includes a new pump, new motor that's more powerful and more compact, which also has a new look. Next week's tip is going to go into detail about the all-new redesigned stern bracket on the blade. And that's your Power Pole tip. Well, the CCA Workbench smells like ballyhoos over here, Davey.
Yeah, I'm glad we remembered
And a few new products.
Well, we've got them all at least, hopefully.
Yes, we do.
Anyway, this is the new Soft Science Finnor 3.0. This is the new design. Finn, I'm sorry.
It's all right.
The 3.0. It's a fishing shoe, made to be a fishing shoe, which, a lot of shoes aren't made to be fishing shoes. This is made to be a fishing shoe. It's got the 4-eye lacing to make sure that you get in there really tight. One of my peeves is shoes that don't have enough laces on them. I can't keep my foot stable. Easy to pull on in the back. When you're a fat guy like me, you don't want to have to bend all the way over. That thing helps get it on and off. It's got this, these things are made out of this special material called Trilon, which makes them so soft. And it also, is the bed for these shoes, and it makes them incredibly soft and comfortable, and keeps the, the water coming up through the bottom. It will drain out nicely, but you don't feel a whole lot of stuff on the bottom. Self-draining mesh, a lot of reinforcement where you need it. Just a great boat shoe. A variety of non-skid as obviously, and non-marking.
Exactly.
Really good shoes.
A lot of great, great colors too, and
Right.
everything. So, guys, if you want some Soft Science, just go to softscience.com.
The Finn's a lot prettier than it
And
used
tell
to
them
be.
Rick and Dave sent you here from the Workbench.
We like them a lot.
Right.
These are the new, I'm real worried about keeping the sun off me. I'm a redheaded boy and grew up here in Florida, so I always try to keep the sun off me as much as I can. And, your hands are an important part of it. You want to keep the sun off your hands, and these Solmar gloves from AFCO are really good at it. They have exposed fingertips so you can keep working on your rigging and stuff. It's got a nice little fleece area right here that absorbs sweat, so during a fight, feed a fish or whatever, you can wipe the sweat off you. Yeah, they got internal foam pads inside, that give you a little bit of padding if you're on a real handle for a long time, and a nice real
even push poles.
Yeah, or a push pole, and it's got a real good collar on the back to keep it from sliding on and off. Really great elastic.
Now, while you're getting the next one, Dave, guys, remember this: when your gloves start to, stink from your sweat and whatnot, fish, don't put them in bleach. The bleach will eat the stitching, and it doesn't matter what brand it is. Just wash them in soap and water.
All right, this is the new Pexor Akuma EXPT 40, a really nice spinning reel. It's got a torsion control armor, which is a carbon fiber backbone inside there that will not, it's stronger than steel. Won't keeps everything tight in there. Won't move around. And it's also got a cyclonic rotor on there, a flow rotor cyclonic, so that it lets a lot of air inside, so it doesn't have a real good chance of getting corroded. Really fat bail. I'm always, I'm a big stickler for having a big fat bail on there because I throw my reels around a lot. 7-in-1 ball bearings, slow oscillation for improved lay. Really good things. Now, last but not least, we got these Gerber Magna pliers. These things are pretty bad. They're forged T6 aluminum. They got carbide cutters that are not only reversible but replaceable. The main grippers are also replaceable. You can replace the tips. It's got a plunge lock on the handle you can use with your thumb. Really, it's got the off axis to even give you more power. And the way the handle is designed, it doesn't close so small that you can't keep adding pressure. It closes you know, when your hand's still open a little bit, and you can really add a whole lot of pressure to it. Comes with a carbiner and a sheath as well.
And they
the
can
Gerber
find
magnifier.
they can find all the rigs and also all the products at Academy.
Yes, you can.
All right, guys,
Yes, you
there
can.
it is. Good stuff here at the CCA Workbench, Bree.
From the mouths of Dave's. Gotcha. We have another seasoned
got me.
newcomer to welcome into the Tiffer family. Covering the Upper Fresh region is your very own Johnny Geis. So happy to have you join us, Johnny.
Thank you. Thanks, Rick and Bree, for the opportunity to come aboard Texas Insider Fishing Report. I'm going to be very excited each week about bringing what's going on in North Texas with our viewers, and I'll do my best to bring the best hot spots available.
All right, well, let's get started there, Johnny.
All right, I say the best way to catch more fish is to go early, stay late, and keep your hook in the water. So we're getting started first with the Lake Fork and largemouth bass. As most people know, Lake Fork produced the state record for Texas, a little over 18 pounds. It's also produced 7 out of the top 10 bass. Well, we're off to a big start this year. Already been 3 bass caught in March, over 13 pounds.
Gah!
That's amazing.
We received a bunch of rain this year in late February and early March. The lake's full. It's in great shape right now. A little bit murky water, but it's in good shape. We got some spawning activity that happened earlier in March, and now with this full moon in April, we've got a major wave happening right now. Our water temperature is ranging from 60s to mid-60s to 70 degrees. And this full moon that just happened on April 1st has triggered probably our best spawn in a while. A lot of bass are moving on beds as we speak right now. Saw them this afternoon. Best lures are soft plastics like flukes, Cincos, lizards, watermelon red. Got the best color, then black and blue in the stain water. We're fishing those either weightless or on a Carolina rig. Chatterbaits, spinnerbaits working good on windy days. Water is heavily stained but clear in mid-lake to the dam and the coves without any creeks. We got some sight fishing going on for it, but not as much as usual due to the water clarity. Major creek areas, Glade, Birch, and Little Caney are producing some quality bass right now. Our fishing pressure is usual super heavy, so if you come into Lake Fork, be sure to plan your lodging early. And be careful when you're on the lake running your big motor. We've got some buoy lines that are safe to run, but if you get out in the timber, it's pretty treacherous, so idle through the timber. For the best chance to catch some really big bass right now, focus on the main lake points where you're catching some pre-spawn fish and some post-spawn fish, and the big swim bait bite is turning on big time right now. Closing out on Fork, I got a picture for us. This is the one of the 13 pounders, over 13, 14.48.
Nice fish, Johnny. All right, let's talk about some big trophy catfish.
Next trophy catfish on Lake Tawakoni. It's off to a good start. March and April is great times for catfish on Tawakoni. Look for the timbered areas in the northwestern areas of the lake. A lot of places where the cormorants are roosting. Catfish forage those areas and fish in shallow water, 3 to 5 foot, and you can catch some heavy trophy blues. I have a picture for that too. Got a client called Matt Cartwright, caught one last week, weighed 73 pounds and 3 foot of water.
Oh my gosh! How did they catch that fish, Johnny?
Yeah, that was a big one.
That's a
closing out. I got a crappie spawn going on Lake of the Pines and other lakes, and it's one of the best lakes for crappie. They're real shallow right now. Catch them in 2 to 4 foot of water. Fishing with ultralight, little cork, and a crappie jig, white or chartreuse. They make the best table fare, so keep what you want to eat and throw the rest of them back. And on Lake Fork, we even got another record out of that on crappie this month. Craig Carpenter, that's my last picture for the report, caught a crappie weighed 3.55 pounds.
Well, Johnny, first
You
off,
win.
I want to welcome you to the show. You're a great addition already for us. And I've got to say, those 3 pictures were, I mean, me and Bree and Dave are all standing here at the workbench just astonished.
We're picking up our chins here.
We're looking forward to working with you this year, and we appreciate all that extra effort with sending in those photos, and we'll talk to you again next week. So the Upper Fresh region hotspots are going to be as follows. Lake Fork and Lake of the Pines, the bass are spawning. Most of the bass are still caught on some type of soft plastic stay in 6 feet of water or less. Also starting to see good action on topwater lures with frogs and whopper poppers. And then Lake Takawani, is that right, Bree?
Tawakoni. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Trophy blue cats are biting, is in the wind down, but as they're winding down, but the big ones are still being caught in shallow timber areas.
Did it? I have to say, Johnny
That's a lot of
won.
reading.
Those fish were
Those were
humongous. Huge. Everything's bigger in Texas. Well, there you have it. 6 regions, 6 guides and captains giving you the best, most accurate and up-to-date fishing reports from around this great state. We will see you all next week, and we're happy to be back. Thanks, y'all.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.
Good job.